With the release of Spikemark 6, we're introducing a ton of new features. Let's jump in and take a look. The first thing you'll notice when you launch Spikemark is this all new playback control up in the top left here. In this show, I have it configured with 4 different playbacks. Playbacks are a way to give us multiple go buttons in a single queue. This can be handy for when I want to split up my types of automation. Say I put my deck automation on playback 1, and then my flying automation on playback 2, and my lifts on playback 3. The other thing this can be handy for is if I have some things that happen in a very close timing with each other, but it might change a little bit every night. So sometimes I need to send my playback 1 stuff first, sometimes I have to send my playback 2 stuff first, all depending on what's happening on stage. This shows up in the queues with this nice little banner here on the left. And so we can see I have queue 1 written with playback 1, playback 2, and playback 3. When I load it, I can see that gets pushed up into my playback control. I can see that Q1 is loaded on 1, 2, and 3. I see that my go buttons light up both on screen and on the console. And now I have the ability to either start it from the screen or press the go buttons on the console. The other cool thing is I can stop using the console or the on-screen button, just the playback I want, and let my other stuff continue to run. The other cool thing that playbacks allow is for live speed adjustment. So when I press go, I can now either on screen turn up the speed all the way up to 200% or turn down the speed all the way down to 0%. Besides just on the screen, I can also use the console and I can use my dials to turn up or slow it down. This can be handy for if I need to slow things down a little bit because we're going a little bit slower tonight, or same thing, speed it up a little bit because we're going a little bit faster tonight. And this allows me to make sure I get the piece exactly where I need to when I need to. Each playback has a sequence, so no longer are we linking cues together. Now that all exists in one spot. So we have, as an example, here in playback 2, I have my step 1, so all these things are going to happen. Then I have a trigger, and then I have my step 2. So before, that would be 2 cues. Now it's all condensed into one, easy to see, easy to follow. So to program, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab our nothing but trouble rotator. I'm gonna hover over our cue, and this gives me the ability to put it into any of the playbacks I want. We're gonna go with playback 1, and I drop it in there. So to edit it, just like before, I can click on it, and this will open up our new editor window. This will stay open no matter what I click on and keeps it where I have it. And this is just to help streamline the process of writing cues. Now let's say I want to add a second step. Once we get to 180, then let's go another 70. So what I can do is I can come over to my new trigger toolbox. I can grab my completion trigger, drop it on there, and then grab my turntable and drop it on there. And just like that, we have a second step. So triggers are just like our old links. They're now just in this new toolbox, and we drag them and drop them into our cue list, just like we do with motors. So again, I can click on my new movement that I've added, and we're gonna be at 180, but then I said we wanna go another 70, so I can do plus 70 and tab, and boom, I don't even have to do the math. Pretty slick. We're gonna adjust our speed and our ASL. And we can keep building and building and building until we have exactly the complex motion sequence we're looking for. Let's also say, oh, this shouldn't be Q31, it should be Q32, and it should be on playback 3. So if I grab it, I can actually create a new cue down at the bottom by just dropping it in the empty space and drag it over to playback 3. Similarly, I can grab a movement or a step. So 5, let's pull that out simply by dragging and dropping. We also have a new concept called Spikemark actions. Spikemark actions are a way to program Spikemark in the queue to do things. This can be super powerful. Our first action is our motor property. I'm going to drop this into Q33. When I select it, this allows me to pick a motor. So for instance, let's pick our floor pocket. This then lets me pick a property. So let's go ahead and change the scenery height, and we'll give it a new value. Let's call it 40. The scenery ones can be super cool for when we change out what is on our, our deck track or on our floor pocket. And so we can adjust the scenery height and width and length so it more matches what we were actually seeing on stage. So once we've saved those changes, again, if I were to run this and I click go, we can see that our floor pocket has changed. We also have motor method actions. And so similar to the properties where we select our motor, again, we'll go floor pocket. And these are things like soft stop, activate, deactivate, and 0 speed, brake release, and engage for the hardware that supports that functionality. So if I choose deactivate on our floor pocket, and then again, I run this, we can see our floor pocket has now gone inactive. And our last action is our playback property. So similar to the motor properties, I select my playback and the property. So let's say I know I always want to start a playback at a specific speed, and then I can type that in. So every night we're always going to start at 10 on playback 1, and then we can slowly dial it up. And again, I can run this, and we can see our playback speed went to 10%. We are also introducing a new type of group. So before, we've always had the unlocked group. And this allows us to individually target our different motors in our group, but if any one of them faults, they'll all stop. And we still have that. It's called our unlocked group. We've now introduced the concept of locked group. And this looks like a single movement, because in a locked group, all the motors have to move to the same position at the same speed. This should really speed up rating queues for when you're using a bunch of chain motors to lift a single thing, or things of that nature where you always want them going to the same position at the same speed. Locked groups program just like a regular motor does, where I can change the target, the speed, the A cell, the D cell, and it looks like just one simple movement. It's been our quick whirlwind tour of all the new features we've added into Spikemark 6 that we're pretty excited about. For more detailed information about how it all works, both the new and everything else, check out our docs and our YouTube videos.